Karan, you are the CEO and co-founder of hubsell.com. It's a platform for cold messaging. So very, very close to the subject, and I would consider you an expert on it. So I wanted to have you back again. We recorded a previous episode about the subject, so this is perfect. We'll dive right in, and we'll try to get this answered as concise and specific as possible. So who it impacts, we already answered that. EU citizens. How you gather data. Why don't we go ahead and talk about real quickly the process of gathering data and why that is so crucial with maintaining GDPR compliance.
Sure. According to the GDPR, when you gather the data, it needs to be done with a predefined purpose to the extent what is necessary. And you should be able to prove or let's say, show your entire data gathering trail, where you got the data, what you did with it, who are the processors involved in it, as well as enable the data subject vis-a-vis the prospect to exercise all of their rights as stipulated by the GDPR, namely the opt-out, changing the data, erasing the data, rectifying a mistake in the data, and blocking the data controller or the company that has the data from further processing it or sharing it with others.
Got it. Perfect. And what are the specific restrictions around B2B, business to business cold emailing?
Okay. That particular part of the activity is currently regulated by country-level regulation in the European Union. There is a draft Europe-wide regulation being worked on, which is called the e-privacy regulation. Until that is coming into force, after its drafting and commenting is fully finalized by the European Council and European Parliament, only local laws are relevant for you at this point. Yeah. And then there are two main camps, opt-out and opt-in, where in opt-out camps, you can target a B2B person, a corporate subscriber, so to speak, and you only need to follow their opt-out request, and that's basically it. In countries, you need to have their permission beforehand to target them. Now, that does not exclude cold outreach. That only excludes cold email.
Got it. Perfect. And cold outreach, that can be any sort of messaging. Cold email is obviously specific to email. Cold outreach could include LinkedIn and some other sources and channels. And let's do this. B2C is obviously business to customer, is obviously taken with a lot more scrutiny. And there is a very strict no emailing for B2C. And you mentioned something, I believe, in our previous episode where there is a situation where a person inside of a company can receive an email from another company, but they received it to their personal inbox, even though it was related to the two companies' business together, how they do business together. But it was a cold email to their personal inbox. Any B2C cold emailing is strictly prohibited under GDPR, correct?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Got it. And that requires, obviously, double opt-in, which does not mean it's a cold email anymore. And so moving forward, we'll just kind of summarize with the best practices that you would suggest to maintain compliance if and when you are sending cold emails to B2B.
Okay. To make sure that you're doing it right, the company should focus on a predefined scope of data gathering, with a clear purpose, and avoid buying pre-existing lists because these lists were not gathered with the purpose that you had in mind. They were by default gathered before you had the purpose, right? Make sure the data that you get is accurate so as to avoid mailing people which are not relevant or are no longer with those companies. Avoid using data that is not accurate, fresh, and properly validated. then make sure the message that you're sending to the person is highly relevant to them. And even more importantly, it should actually be valuable to the person receiving the email.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, be very mindful not to be spammy. That's very, very important. Um, to provide value and relevance and avoid being spammy.
Mm-hmm. And give us one example of what you mean by spam.
Well, if you are sending a generic high volume email to a lot of different people, and let's say you're selling a product that is specifically focusing on marketing people, but your data is so, let's say, unstructured or unqualified that you're targeting operations or IT and so forth, people that are completely not relevant in that direct marketing campaign. That is, well, in even a very loose term of the word, spammy.
Exactly. And that kind of part of the reason GDPR exists and a lot of regulations exist is because of misuse and spam. You know, if I'm going to be sending an email to someone that I know finds value in the product or service that I'm offering, and I am not abusing that, meaning I do not obviously continue to bombard them with messaging about that product and service if they have not expressed interest, then I am spamming. And that is why we have these regulations, and everybody is going to be better for it. So that's great. So I'll go ahead and type this up so that they have a textual reference of the answer, as well as this recording, as well as the audio file if they want to listen. So I believe we've done our job, and we'll go ahead and find another related question to answer about this subject matter and connect soon. So thank you a lot.
Thank you very much, Alex. Anytime.
All right, Karan. Take care. Bye.
Bye.